Okay, good evening. I'm going to declare a quorum and call the City of Groton Committee of the Whole meeting for Monday, January 28, 2019. Order. Clerk Patrick, please call the roll.
Present are Mayor Keith Hedrick, Deputy Mayor Lawrence Garrett, Councilors Joe Rust, Jamal Beckford, Guinevere Depot, Rashad Carter, Finance Director Ron Uhas, Clerk Deborah Patrick. Excused is Councilor Stephen Sheffield.
Okay, thank you. Due to the number of people in the audience here for the Mother Bailey, we will start with 736 Mother Bailey House RFP. Dennis, if I could get you to come up. Council, what you have in your packets is you have the response of the 824 hearing that was conducted. And one of the things that we wanted to talk about during the Committee of the Whole is what are our options on the Mother Bailey House and steps to go forward. And we have, at the last council meeting, council voted on an ordinance to declare the Mother Bailey House, or both 108 Thames and 0 Broad Street surplus property, which gets us to the next step of what do we do and where can we go. So with that, Dennis, I'll let you take over from there a little bit.
Sure. Good evening. At the Real Estate Committee's meeting, when we had met to discuss the initial topic of declaring this as surplus property, we talked about what the next steps might be after that as well in anticipation of this discussion. While we didn't take a formal action, I think the consensus of the group seemed to be to go out to an RFP or an RFQ process. I'll use the Groton Heights School as something similar that you might be aware of recently, that the town had went out for an RFQ or an RFP for the redevelopment of that. There might be something in that nature. While it's a different type of property with different characteristics, it was sort of the consensus that the best course of due diligence would be to advertise the property for its sale through the RFQ process, and also to outline within that RFP a set of criteria to ensure that we would be soliciting from qualified entities or individuals that would be interested, but also that had the resources to be able to do something meaningful with the property. I believe also that we were of the consensus, and it was a recommendation, as you'll have seen from the Planning and Zoning Commission's referral, to draft any type of sale of the property to try to repurpose or reuse the property and preserve the building as it is and adaptively reuse it, if you will. That would be the preference of the Planning and Zoning Commission, and I think that would be, from a due diligence standpoint, in the world of historic preservation, it would probably be recommended as well. I will add that I did speak with C.O.W, which is the State Historic Preservation Office, and they had also suggested that that would be a good course of due diligence as well, if it was a property that we had no use for at the immediate time.
Just for the audience, the Planning and Zoning Commission, they said for your consideration, the City Council collaborate with the city planner to draft appropriate language that facilitates the sale of the property to a responsible and qualified entity, preferably with experience in adaptive reuse of historic properties with similar characteristics on 108 Thames Street, and preferably through a request for proposal / qualifications process. During the sale process, consideration should be given as may be practical to the historic nature of the property and its prominence to the Thames Street area. So that is, we do have that on the record. There are several of you that have submitted letters to the council. They received those letters when they came to the committee of the whole meeting tonight. So,
If I could just add the clause in there, as may be practical in the last sentence, I just want to elaborate on that. Instead of putting easements or some specific requirements or must-haves to draft any RFP or RFQ, to provide as much flexibility as possible, but also it would itemize out certain review criteria or evaluation criteria. So as the committee, whatever committee is formed to review those, was to vet the submissions. It's a fair process that weights the evaluation criteria for that selection or that shortlist.
okay. Any discussion by the council at this point? Councilor Rusk?
I just want to thank the Planning and Zoning Commission. I think this is what a lot of us would like, to have consideration be given to somebody who could reuse the property. As a reminder, we are able to just say, like, if we don't get any RFQs or RFPs that we like, we can say no to them all, correct?
Right.
Okay.
We can say no, and then we can reissue.
Okay.
One of the things that we have talked about, or at least I've talked to staff about, is to make sure that when we write the RFP, RFQ, that it's open enough and that it doesn't drive the bidders in a process. We're not trying to drive this in a certain way. We want it to be open. This council and I have went on the record that we would like to save the Mother Bailey house. That is honest from my side. I know the council has spoken about it before. The challenge that we have is that the taxpayers have spoken and said, don't spend any more money. So my hands are tied as to what monies I can spend on the Mother Bailey house. So that's what's driving us in this direction to go down the RFQ, RFP process in order to find a new owner for that property that will hopefully do something good that will satisfy most people with what they do. Councilor Russ.
When you talked to the State Historic Preservation Office, did they give any indication that they were interested in purchasing the property?
Not for purchase, no. They did talk about there might be, grant opportunities, which I could talk about in the next agenda item as well.
Okay. Thank you.
I would say grant opportunities, that's for either further studies or perhaps for any type of renovations.
The challenge with some of those grants is that they are typically matching grants. So that ends up being a challenge. Is there any other discussion from the council on this? Okay, then we will move forward with the development of the RFP, RFQ process to develop something similar in nature to what was done for the Groton Heights School, which was basically, it was open. What is it you want to do with this property? And, what would you need from the city and those kind of things. And that way it's an open proposition, and we'll take the solicitations and look at them. And I've already asked if it comes up that there's no one that we like, what can we do? The answer is we can rebid. We don't have to accept anything out of there. Councilor Rusk.
When we put out for bid, are we going to put in wording that says consideration will be given to someone who could reuse the house versus demo it?
We can put whatever wording that we need to in there. Another thing we're going to do is we will have our attorneys. In this particular case, I don't normally get attorneys involved in the RFP process, but I probably will to ensure that the city's best interest is protected, and that we don't get into something frivolous down the road that we wish we hadn't. Councilor Depot.
I just being involved in the Groton Heights a little bit, there was a lot of language on our intent in the RFP, so that the people bidding knew that their bid was going to be weighed against the intent, not just whether it would bring in more money or whatever. There was a whole bunch of language on, the history of the property and what we kind of wanted with the property and that kind of thing that they clearly knew was going to weigh on the decision of who was awarded the.
Do you want to expound on RFPs?
No, I think everything's been explained. So far, again, it's based on the qualification and the proposal itself. It's not based on monetary. Everything will be taken into consideration, the weightedness, and at the end, it will come to the council for a vote. So even if if you're not in agreement with what the recommendation is, ultimately, it does come to council for the final vote. So you will see it. It's not, once the RFP goes, it no longer comes back. So I just want to make sure that you guys do know that.
And for the public, this is something that will be publicly discussed and openly discussed at council meetings and at committee of the wholes. At the council meetings, you have citizens petitions where you can speak. I still encourage you to come out to, with your support of the Mother Bailey property. I promise you that we will not be doing any behind the closed doors, under the table thing to get rid of the Mother Bailey house. That is not our intent. Our intent is to move forward in a positive manner for the whole of the city of Groton. Anything else on the RFP process? Okay, we'll go to 737, the Mother Bailey House Environmental Assessment. Okay, go ahead, Dennis.
So this is related to the prior item, obviously, in that the services, which I'll describe in a moment, would help inform us as it relates to the RFP process and the review and selection of a purchaser. The committee, the real estate committee, did, as we were anticipating next steps, and to be more informed with any potential future negotiations on the sale of the property. Wanted to make sure that we understood and have done our due diligence as to what the actual conditions of the property is. So there's a couple of items that are of importance that have to do with the monetary disposition as well as the physical, and that is the environmental aspects or environmental conditions related to building materials. As well as structural. This doesn't focus so much on structural as it does environmental. So this is the proposal before you from BL Companies, which is dated November 2nd of 2018, is for hazardous building material investigations, and it's titled Demolition Permitting Review. This is to look at any of the potential hazardous materials such as asbestos or lead paint on the property. And to attempt to quantify what the potential cost would be to abate any of those if they do exist. So this would actually include physical testing, removing of materials, to any type of wrapping that might still exist on pipes for insulation, taking samples for lead paint, both interior and exterior of the building, and then attempting to quantify as much as possible so we can identify the costs associated with that. Now, that would go into whether, no matter what the property's use was, whether, even if it is reused, it has to be remediated. So that would help in the negotiations with a developer to understand that. And then even if the best efforts of preservation were not to work out, it still would be an effort that would be necessary to better inform us. Now, there has been studies done in the past, but they've been, a number of them are 5 years old or older, so some of the conditions on the property could have changed. In my discussions with the with SHPO this afternoon, the gentleman reminded me of some of the planning grants and other types of grants that they have available, and as the mayor had mentioned, virtually all grants associated with historic preservation require a 50% match. And the mayor and I were discussing this afternoon that perhaps if the council is inclined to go forward with this work, this could be used for, towards a match for perhaps bringing in a consultant to look at actually adaptively reusing the building, and what would it be best used for in today's day and age in its climate? How may it contribute to the Thames Street property? We're also undertaking the master plan for Thames Street, so it might be a good time, and this could perhaps be all done coincidental in parallel with the RFP process. It's going to take time to draft the RFP, to go through the vetting process, to advertise, and even to get them. So you're talking 3, 4, 5 months or more, even until submissions are provided. Grant applications for survey and planning grants, which is the type of grant I'm looking at right now and maybe suggesting, is done on a rolling basis, so there's no specific deadline in the future. So we could put together an application over the next month or two, and then maybe know within the next month or two after that whether we would receive it. So it could all work hand in hand. And in talking with the gentleman from SHPO, I think it's part of the due diligence for the city as to doing that, to look at what we can do to best reuse the property and be more informed in negotiations.
Okay, now, there are a couple of reasons I want to bring this to the council. To the cost is around $9,500. It is not a not to exceed. So it was close enough to the $10,000 threshold that I want to bring it to you too. I also want to bring it to you because of the transparency with this. But Dennis, the consulting and demolition permitting review, what would that be for, and is that something that we need to do now?
It isn't something we need to do now. That was, if demolition was to be something down the road, that was to look at perhaps selectively removing it and selling portions of it for reuse, maybe on the property or elsewhere. And again, that was something that we talked about 4 or 5 months ago, I think. But a lot has changed, since then, and it is something that we could certainly do later. The first phase items, the hazardous building material, that fee is $5,330. There are some estimated numbers, so that could increase from that, depending on what they find and see out on the site.
Okay. What I would like to propose to the council is to move forward with the first part of this proposal and not with the second part. And the reason I don't want to go with the second part yet is that I don't want the appearance that it looks like we're just waiting for demolition to happen. I have always said demolition is the last resort. So we don't need this now. We're going to have an RFP. That process, RFP, RFQ, and we're going to, with that and this information as far as remediation costs, that will help bidders on the RFQ, RFP process quantify what their cost would be. Does that make sense or no? Mm-hmm. Is that something that council is, if you are in consensus with, then we can make that decision tonight, not to do the second part. Councilor Depot.
I'm just looking at the, not to complicate it, but looking at the price of the first phase.
Sure.
Have we compared that to the pricing we've paid for other hazardous material surveys?
I don't think we've had a hazardous material survey. We were going to go out with the HIP tag grant, and the HIP tag grant was going to give us the architectural survey and the hazardous material survey, and we did not get that grant.
I don't mean on that property.
Oh, sorry.
I mean in general.
You're talking about in general.
Because this number seems high to me.
I don't know the answer to that. That's a good question. Go ahead, Ron.
I think it was in 2013, an RFP was sent out for on-call engineering services, and that contract was awarded to BL Companies. So BL Companies is the on-call engineering firm that we have. So when this was first discussed, Dennis just reached out to the on-call. We didn't necessarily get quotes because in theory they were all done back at that point in time. So I think that's what you were looking for, knowing if we had more, if we had like additional quotes.
Well, yes, well, only because for hazardous materials, it just seems high.
Okay. How hard would it be to get could we get
Even
another
to look
quote?
back against, because, I mean, obviously the engineering and stuff, but even to look back at, because I know that we've used other places for, even just to compare the price and go back and say, hey, this seems a little bit high, especially on something that we're trying to save money on, to spend $3,000 for a survey, that three grand seems high to me. In my experience, that's
Probably we have to
high.
do a full advertised RFP for that.
It should be a quote, we're underneath the threshold even.
We're underneath threshold, so we could do it.
Correct.
We
I
could
know it's a
reach
small
out to a
amount,
couple of
but-
vendors and get a quote. We could do that. And then, based on that quote, those quotes, then, when it comes to the council, then we'll have either this group or the next group, whoever the lowest bidder is. Does that make sense to the council? Okay, in that case, I will need a motion to move this to the mayor and council meeting of February 4th.
So moved.
Second.
Okay, we have a motion and a second. Any further discussion? Hearing none, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, abstention, motion carries unanimously. While you're there, let's go to, so this is, just for those of you that were here for the Mother Bailey discussions, there is nothing else that is on the council to discuss Mother Bailey. You are certainly welcome to stay, but if your purpose was to be here for the discussion, this is the extent of the organized discussion on Mother Bailey. Okay, we'll go to 7:35 to get you out of here, which is 7:35, BL Company Special Permit Application Review. Okay, go ahead.
So, as you're likely aware, Electric Boat will be is in the planning stages and design and engineering stages of their, what they call their assembly building in the South Yard for their Columbia-class submarines. They are probably 50% along, and we are anticipating that they will be making an application to the Planning and Zoning Commission on February 13th. It will be received on February 20th, at which time we will be scheduling a public hearing, most likely for April 9th. We'll be having a special meeting because the regular April meeting actually falls at the school holiday, so people won't be around. I probably won't be around either. But as part of that process, there's going to be substantial reviews of plans, testimony that will have to be addressed as well, both from the public and from the applicant. And we have statutory timelines that we have to follow once the application is received by the commission on February 20th. This is, we've been reviewing and meeting on a regular basis with EB, their plans. It's a very large, complicated application, a lot of moving parts. We have, it's basically myself and Carlton that do most of the plan reviews from a site and zoning standpoint. But this also has to do with stormwater management, architecture, acoustics, other types of perhaps items that could potentially have impact on the surrounding neighborhoods and the community. Traffic is one of them, parking another. So we, under, as it's my cover letter outlined, under our ordinance 163, we can pass along the charges for technical review for consultants to applicants. This was recently done under the Zoning Board of Appeals. I believe Carlton was here last week. And the commission has also reviewed this as well. We've received a proposal from our on-call engineer, BL Companies, to assist staff and act as a extension of staff, if you will. And they've provided the proposal to us. So the process that will happen after it is, after the proposal is approved by and accepted by the council and it's been vetted, it will be passed along, and that fee that is outlined would be charged to the applicant as part of their application fee. They will pay that amount to us. It will go into an account that finance will establish, and we will use that amount to pay invoices on a monthly basis, and then any amount is then left over after a decision is rendered, whether it's an approval or denial. The remaining amount will be reimbursed to the applicant. This is also allowed under state law. I don't know if this is new to you or not, because this is my first time up here in front of you talking about this. The fee is escalated 150% because there could be a lot of unknowns, and as we're going through the process, and again, with the statutory timelines, we don't have time to come back and ask for another proposal and come back to you and go through this process. So we need to keep things moving along. The commission did take action to, as you can see in the cover letter, to endorse this and bring this to you, and then this will be passed along to the applicant as well.
Any questions from council? Okay, with that, I'll take a motion to move this to the mayor and council meeting of 4 February.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. Any further discussion? Hearing none, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, abstention, motion carries. Okay, we'll go back to the beginning. Thank you, Dennis.
Welcome.
And we will start with 690, which is the city budget presentations. Who wants to go first, Tim or Chief? Tim? I think everybody has a copy of the budgets.
We're proposing a budget of $2,114,513 this year. It's an increase of $5,602, or a 0.27% increase. If you want to start, we can start right at administration and work our way through if you'd like. This next page. A couple big increases, but then we had some decreases to offset the total. So we had a $3,000 increase in the full-time personnel and salaries. There's a big increase in retirement and health insurance. That's the biggest chunk there. We also had decreases in workman's comp and in general insurance, or the KERMA, which offset it. So instead of 28,000 plus, it's only 15,961.
You don't have them? You didn't get them in your packets?
They were handed out.
They were handed out last meeting.
Last week.
I'm sorry, I forgot to bring them up. Can we make quick copies?
Okay,
Or no, I'm sorry, Jamal has it, we can share.
okay.
Thank you.
I just want to make sure
I
that you guys had
apologize.
some.
Thank you.
Hold on a second. I want to make sure the council's caught up with where you are.
I'm sorry, I just took up.
Nope, that's okay. All right, go ahead, Tim.
Any questions on the administration?
Councilor Sheffield?
Yeah, I guess for the full-time personnel, I guess, is that a pay raise increase?
Yes.
Okay.
You know, move on to fleet. There's an increase of $1,884. On page 3, you'll see $1,750 of that is in salary. Any questions on that?
Council, okay. Tim?
The next one is roads and streets. This is where we have biggest number of personnel, spend the most hours. The biggest increase in roads and streets because of the bond money. We had 6 years to, I believe it was 6 years now, bond money for the town of Groton. That has run out. All my material and supplies for repairing of the roads came out of the bond money. That was our catch basin tops, concrete, blocks, mortar, concrete for the sidewalks, all the material came out of there. So on the 7th year, now we're back to where we were 7 years ago. We're asking for the material now. And if you look at the bottom, there's $9,200 and some for sidewalk material, that's concrete and expansions and form oil and cure and that stuff. Also another $5,000, for drainage material. That's the catch basin stuff to repair them before we pave.
Couple things we're going to do is, one, on February 5th, Tim, Ron, and I are going to the committee of the whole for the town council, and we're 12th. You're right. This is the 12th. Thank you. On the 12th, to repurpose some of the money that's left in the bond fund to the lot zip project that we've just been awarded, the $2.1 million lot zip project on Pequannock Road, from Rainville up to and including Five Corners. So we're going to do that. While we're there, we're also going to talk to them about whether or not they're looking at another 5-year bond for roads and highways, which is what we're getting off of now, just ending up. Because what I don't want to do is in the future have peaks and valleys based on what roads we need to do and put them in our roads and highways budget. Any comments or questions for Tim? Councilor Depot.
For the full-time increase, that's about 2%, I'm assuming. Is that all just standard raises? Is that what that's from?
Right now, because the contract for the public, pretty much all the city contracts are up June 30th of this coming year of 19. So that number is just in there because we don't know where that's going to end up. So with the contract negotiation process.
So what you're going to see in all of our budgets is you're going to see a placeholder that's level, and then whatever contract negotiations happen, then we will probably have to go back in contingency or something in order to if it's higher than that, then go back. If it's not higher than that, then we're level, and if it's less than that, then we're good. But all eight of our bargaining units are up for negotiation this year by the end of June.
Okay.
Any other questions? Any other questions for Tim?
Another point I'd like to make is, even though the bond money is either used up or spoken for, we're still going to do part of Benham Road this year. From Rainville Avenue to the Five Corners will be completed this spring, as early as the contractor can get here. We were supposed to do it, but with all the rain we had all year, he got backlogged. That is going to be finished under the previous bond money.
Anything else for council? Councilor Depot.
Well, he didn't go through all of them.
Okay, then go through all of them. What did he miss?
Oh, we were going page by page.
Yeah, we were going page by page.
Okay, then keep going page by page.
Or you can just ask him a question.
No, this is your opportunity. Do not.
No. You were
I thought we
thinking that it was done, but we
No, we
are not. I know that.
Snow and ice control is staying the same. No increase there.
There. Okay.
Now, in engineering, we're proposing an increase of $6,997. This position has not been filled for over 2 years. We've been trying hard. I think we're finally getting it filled, so there'll be some increases.
Question?
Counselor Rusk?
If it hasn't been filled in 2 years, have we been funding it for the past 2 years? And it's just been sitting there? Yes. And if so,
Goes back to the general fund.
okay. Thank you.
Please continue.
Highway and buildings, it's just a $300 increase. Requesting $19,800 for the maintenance and repair of the building and electricity, utilities, that sort of thing.
So for Tim's budget, all in all, it is pretty much just zero budget across the board with the minor increases to, pay increases, and then the other couple of changes with the pension and the insurances and stuff that is not in his control. The other piece, which I think Tim just kind of skipped over quickly because it's on the bottom, is his capital projects and vehicles. There was a decrease in there. Last year it was $170,000, this year it's $125,000, and he has budgeted a couple of pickup trucks and a mason dump. So that's kind of what offset his increase in the operating was his decrease in the capital in the first year.
I think originally we had a larger truck that I spec'd out, but it was roughly $45,000 more. We're trying to balance the budget, keep it low as we can, so we put that truck off for another year.
Any other questions from the council? Okay, with that, I need a motion to move it to the mayor and council meeting of 4 February.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. Any further discussion? Hearing none, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, abstentions, motion carries.
Next,
Thank you, Tim. Chief? The next one is the police budget. Everybody ready? Chief, the floor is yours.
Good evening. We are requesting a slight increase to $5,289,624.69. It is a increase of $245,486 over the previous year, roughly 4.87%. Similar to what you observed with the Highway Department, I will refer you to the cost that we have on retirement. That seems to be the primary driver. You'll see an increase there on page 2 of 28.13%. And we have a solvent retirement fund, and we've stayed ahead of it, and we don't have some of the issues that they have up in Hartford because we've been diligent there.
We're required by contract, right? Isn't that right, Ron?
Yeah, and the reason why there's such a significant increase in this budget was last year was on the low side, so this year actually had to catch up, so it almost took like a 2-year increase in the 1 year. So it was under budgeted last year, and we only take out the amount that's budgeted.
Okay. Most of the accounts that we've run, we've held the line on. In my account, on the chief, you'll see a increase, but I'm proud to say I'm in my 5th year of service to the city. I came up as a patrolman, so that may be one of the reasons that's where it's at. And God willing, I hope to serve more years here. It's an honor and privilege to serve the city of Groton. One area I did increase is training. I would like to have our officers have as consistent and proper training that we can have, and that will save you money over the risk management scenario long term. One area I'm proud of that we have an increase of 6.38% is educative stipend to officers. We have 3 new master degrees, and our officers earned in the past year. the officers are taking advantage of the stipend, they're going back to school, and a well-educated police force is a quality police force. The training account, I look at, I want to have all our officers trained in at scene accident, basic interview and interrogation skills. I want to see them in basic crime scene, and I think that if you hit that, those big three, you're well versed moving in, and as I stated previously, that will save you money in risk management. We did go over budget last year in special events, but we had an unexpected visit from the Vice President. Came over to the Coast Guard Academy, and we did incur overtime costs from that. Things that were not within the budget parameter, but we saved money for taxpayers in the city is on asset forfeiture. We provided new guns. With the ALEC group, we're actively discussing with them. They would like to seek maybe making us a model community in what we've done, and they do have a federal funding stream. I've been talking to Bill Canada on that. That may be something that we bring into the city. We undertook a school safety grant with a Class S high school that we have here with Project Learn, Marine Science Magnet High School, and that allowed us, as you saw in the executive session that we had previously, we were well ahead of other communities with a school safety initiative that I'd like to see spread to all of Groton if possible. One other thing that I'm very proud of is we're level 1 accredited, and I was told today with our proofs we're about 65% moving towards a level 2 accreditation, which would be quite an accomplishment for an agency this size. So the taxpayer in the city of Groton gets a lot of bang for their buck. Guys do a good job, and any questions I'd be more than happy to answer.
Okay, Counsel?
Chief,
Councilor Sheffield?
the increase in the, I guess, the Blue Cross, the health insurance, is that going to be continuing?
You'll see that across
Okay.
the board.
Yeah, our non-departmentals increase, and you're gonna see the increase in that across all the budgets that will come before you.
Yeah, those are our wild cards, so to speak, as you know. We get hit with those on the Blue Cross Blue Shield costs and with retirement costs. The costs, usually that's driving a lot of budgets municipally. It's not unusual.
Deputy Mayor Garrett?
You were talking about training, Chief. I guess we pay for training whether we have it or not. Is that?
Yeah,
correct assumption?
that is a very correct assumption. It's pay me now or pay me later. But basically, if you fail to train, you are training to fail. We put our people into excellent schools. We got very involved early with Paris down in Boston, and they look at us for our leadership position. We have some protocols that other agencies, quite frankly, don't have. I was at the management LEC research, which is the Law Enforcement Council, which does the majority of the training for municipal officers. They were talking about de-escalation training that Norwich PD has brought in. All our personnel go to that on a regional basis, and if you factor that in with the training that we use with the ALEC group, which bleeds across multiple demographics, people with Alzheimer's, people with developmental disabilities, irrespective of how we deal with them professionally. We deal with them in a very positive and proactive manner. Our complaints are down, and then secondarily our use of forces are down. And if that occurs, your risk is down, and that makes Mr. Uhas very happy.
Councilor Depot?
I was just gonna point out, speaking of risk, it looks like the workers' comp insurance has gone down, which is very good.
Yes, we have one officer that has left the department that was driving that a little bit with costs, but that is reflective of that. Absolutely right. You put your people less at risk, less use of force you have to use.
We're trying.
Good job.
Thank you.
It's tough to get that to go down.
It is.
Just,
Go ahead.
if I could, one other question, Chief. With the anticipated employment rise at Electric Boat, do you expect that you'll need any more traffic control positions for the
I think we're
increase,
going to need personnel. One thing that you have to look at when, and I don't need to tell you or the chief here, in a lot of sense between working hours of 6 to 4:30, we are the region's police department. The two primary employers are located here. My phone rings quite a bit with parking issues, which is also a good sign, because if you have a parking problem, it means people are trying to get to where you're at. And it's better off to have a parking problem than have excess parking. But that's being said and somewhat tongue-in-cheek, we are going to need personnel. I anticipate with the hiring at EB, we're going to have traffic coming into the city that we haven't had previously. They may change their business model into how they staff their shifts, which is going to put more pressure on our evening shift to handle that. And we are seeing a little bit of an uptick in traffic accidents. When I met with some sergeant staff informally, I was told that they'd like to see our people get additional training in motor vehicle accident investigation because our volume is picking up.
Currently, Electric Boat is having a parking study and a traffic study. Once they're completed, then they're going to meet with us. Let me define us. Chief, myself, maybe Carlton, maybe Dennis, John Burt, and we're going to get together to talk about traffic and parking and how do you get people in, how do you get people out of the city over the next 5 to 10 years, because there's an anticipated growth of 5,000 people net in the next 5 to 10 years. So we have to figure out how we're going to deal with that. And the other side of that is we need to look at revenues and what revenues do we have out there, and then work into that so I can make sure that we're looking at revenue sources and not just increasing taxes. So those are things we are all looking at. Any other questions on the budget? Okay, if not, I would like a motion to move it to the mayor and council meeting of 4 February.
Second.
Okay, we have a motion and a second. Any further discussion? Hearing none, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, abstentions, motion carries unanimously. Thank you. Thank you, Chief.
Thank you.
All right, we're gonna go to 7:30, ordinance 198 amendment. Mary, that's you.
1 second, Mayor.
Oh,
One
sorry.
more thing on budget. On everybody's,
You're right.
thing, there was a handout as to where the general fund currently is expenditure-wise. We did not have a cal last month, so it's as of December 31st, and then behind it is as of November 30th. Just so you kind of have the total of where all the departments are year-to-date in December.
And if council has a recommendation on additional information they would like, or additional format or whatever, please either let me know or let Ron know, and we'll go from there. You're right, sorry, we did talk about doing that, and I forgot. Thank you,
Just because
Ron.
it was there, so.
Sure. Okay, Mary, we'll do 7:30, which is the ordinance 198.
Okay, good evening, everyone. So this was the ordinance that actually came out of the Beach and Parks Committee to the Parks and Recreation Committee of the Council, and then came back to the Beach and Parks Committee in regards to our pets and dogs at the beach. Through conversation and meeting with both committees and with the chairman of the Beach and Parks Committee coming to this meeting to talk to you all, the Beach and Parks Committee has come up with some change in language to do an amendment to this ordinance under section 1, letter B, in regards to presence of dogs or pets on the beaches. The language changed to that during this no pets leashed or unleashed shall be allowed on the Eastern Point Beach Park property at any time from Memorial Day through Labor Day. So that way, during that summer season, there's no dogs at all on the property. But then during the off-season, we would allow dogs to be on the property. But we have referenced, there's a State of Connecticut Department of Public Health guidelines in regards to domestic animals shall be prohibited in the water and on the immediate shoreline associated with the water of a public swimming area when the public swimming area is open for use. So we want to reference that so that, I mean, our beach is used, I mean, we do have multas in there on the 1st of January, so that's, we don't really close the swimming area off. So this would help us control dogs being on the sand and in the ocean in the off-season. And we'd make sure that's posted at the beach. So that's the language that the Beach and Parks Committee has recommended I bring back to you in regards to amending this ordinance.
And there is at least one lady that I know that goes swimming there almost every day.
Yes, she does. High tide.
She is,
Amazing.
she's my hero. She's tough as nails. Okay, so I'll need a motion to move this to the mayor and council meeting of 4th February. Oh, discussion? Sure. We should
Any
probably follow protocol. Is there any discussion?
Mary just scares people, so.
Let's get it moving.
Hey, you guys didn't want to be here. I'm moving this.
Thank you.
Councilor Russ.
I just said thank you.
Oh, my gosh. Councilor D.
I was just gonna say, I know that some people were completely opposed to having pets on the property, and some people were the opposite, that they thought there shouldn't be any restrictions, so I'm really happy that, we're able to kind of come to a middle ground on it, because it just seemed to a good balance for what everyone wanted. So thank you for working on this.
This is just step one, because it does have there's a process now with this ordinance being
Right.
amended that has to be posted a couple times before it's final.
Is there any further discussion? Okay, hearing none, I will take a motion to move this to the mayor and council meeting of February 4th.
So moved.
Second.
There's a motion and a second, any discussion? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, abstention, motion carries unanimous. 731 Eastern Point Beach concession contract.
So, the process with the concession stand at Eastern Point Beach is that the current occupant, or leasee, has until February 1 to let us know if they're returning. We have received a letter from Groton Public Schools Food Services that they would like to return. The letter was enclosed with your packet. They are making a request, and so I've asked Ernie Koshmeter from the Groton Public Schools Food Services to be here tonight to answer any questions that you might have in regards to his request of holding the rent to the current fee.
Can we just get a history of, it used to be?
So it used to be, back when the Garcias were here, it used to be $300 for the summer. After the summer of 16, it was discussed that we would increase the rate, the rent. We'd go to $700, and then we'd increase to $1,100, and then to $1,500. So by this 2019, we'd be at $1,500, with the idea of trying to put some money aside so the equipment that we own the equipment in that space, we would have the dollars put aside so we could purchase, if necessary, any additional or new equipment. And that was also the year that there was a transition. Unfortunately, Pat Garcia passed away, so we put it out to RFP to get a new group in and kind of had that stipulation in there. I'm very happy with the service that we've received the last 2 seasons at the beach with the Groton Public School Food Services Program, and I think they've done a wonderful job. I think there's been a nice increase in variety of foods and choices. So I don't have an issue with it for this year, but it's up to you as a council, the council to decide if that's. It wasn't something that was voted on to do the increase. It was just a discussion to get it to there by 2019.
I would concur with what you said for the major improvements that have occurred down there since the Groton Public School Program has been running it under Mr. Koshmeter. I think we're fortunate to have him come back at the same price.
Councilor Depot?
I would be interested to see, while I agree the selections have gotten, they've added variety and it's very nice. I would be interested to see, do we have a broken out budget of what it costs to maintain and all of the other costs associated with the building that are paid by the city?
With me tonight, no. But I mean, during that time frame of that year, when they use it for the 3 months, they pay the utilities. Mm-hmm. They pay us rent. We haven't had equipment issues. The last thing that we had to buy was an ice cream machine about 4 years ago. So it's just, maintenance is just probably just, I mean, they clean it, they empty their trash. So it's really just equipment that if we had any equipment fail, and unfortunately we haven't had that happen. So everything else is pretty much covered under their expenses that they have associated with their contract with the space.
Councilor Depot.
So this rent money, is this going into a fund for those instances, or is this just going into the?
It's just going into the general fund right now, but with the idea that, my budget, when you see it in the future months, it does have, we do have a beach maintenance budget items, and we do budget for equipment, but this was an idea to help us so we could start doing that. But it's only in the third year of increasing it $400 a year since 2016.
Any other discussion? So.
Any questions for Ernie?
Well, I was going to say, we do have Ernie here if you want to talk to him. If you don't need to talk to him, then I'm not going to bring him up. But if you want to talk to him, Ernie, come on up so that you can address the council. You may have something you want to speak since you're here. Thank you. Councilor Deep.
I actually do have a question. Do you, as the person who's there using it all the time, do you see any of the machinery or equipment or anticipate any of that in the next few years we might need to repair or replace in your mind?
I think that, first of all, thank you very much for having me this evening. And I just really, real quickly want to thank the mayor and this council for your tremendous support that you've given us, Groton Public Schools, the opportunity to do this for our community. So thank you so much for that. As far as equipment goes, Mary's been, she's wonderful. We work together very, very well. At the end of school, what I do is I relocate some pieces of equipment down to the basement of the park house because, for that extra storage is very, very limited in the concession stand. So we're able to relocate some of the equipment. Therefore, it reduces a little bit of wear and tear on the existing equipment. And then when we close the concession stand, we relocate our equipment back to the schools, until the following summer. But right now, this year, I think we would be fine once again with utilizing the things that are there with no additional cost. I mean, we don't know if something's going to just stop, but so far I feel pretty confident.
Any other questions or comments from the council? Hey, I'd like a consensus on, do you want to leave the rent at $1,100 or do you want to go to the $1,500? Do we have?
Say leave it.
Okay.
I'm fine with leaving it.
Okay.
Same here.
I agree.
Okay, then we'll leave it at $1,100.
Thank you.
And with that, I will need are there any other questions or comments on this motion? Resolution, rather? Okay. I will need a motion to move this to the mayor and council meeting of 4 February.
So moved.
Second.
I have a motion and a second. Any other discussion? Hearing none. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Abstention? Motion carries. Thank you, Arnie. Thank you,
Ernie.
Thank you.
Appreciate it.
Okay, the next one is 732. That is the Park House shed. All right, so why are we here to talk about the Park House shed?
Because
We've talked about this before, right?
The roof.
door sizes, overhead doors, that was the overhead, yeah,
This is for the new building.
new building. This is,
We originally had a quote, and then we identified that the garage door sizes were not the correct sizes that we would need in order to get all the equipment in. And as a result, we went back to get a new bid, if you will, and that's what we have here. So with that, Councilman.
Just for clarification, this is the building that is directly in front of this property, not,
Correct.
we're not
This is-
talking about at Washington Park? Okay.
no, this
We're
is the
talking
park house that's right at the end of the
Okay.
driveway here to go on your way out
Thank
to
you.
the
I'm
left.
sorry, I was
And-
confused on
yeah.
what building we were
And
talking about.
We came in earlier, well, latter part of last year, to put a three-bay garage shed, which was we took it out to bid. We got we got bids from 4 companies, and there was a resolution to award it to Kenneth Warner and Sons, Inc. Upon looking at the descriptions and paperwork that was in the packet, when I saw that doors had to be a minimum size of 9 by 7, I'm like, okay, 9 feet tall, 7 feet wide, it works. But it's the other way around, so they're only 7 feet high. So currently, we have a piece of equipment that we couldn't even put in this new shed. And that doesn't allow us any of the flexibility if we were to get additional equipment down the years to come. So I did catch it before anything had started. I did talk to the mayor and I talked to Ron, and we asked the company, the contractor that we reached out to, who we awarded the bid to, if he could give us an update of what it would cost to get the doors the right size. So the initial quote was $109,678, and it was approved with a contingency of $120,500. That left us short $2,283 with no contingency for anything else unforeseen. So he gave us a new updated numbers, which are $122,638. We are looking to add a 10% contingency to that, which would make it $134,901.80. He also put in his contract, his updated stuff, depending on when work gets done. Like if we start working, it gets cold. There's a cold weather add-alt for $4,200, which they would put they would use hot water and they put additive in the concrete so it would cure properly. That may be needed, it may not. It all depends on when he can get started. So we're looking to, I guess it's a resolution change to.
Right, to update the resolution, which will have an amount not to exceed the $134,901.80, and then if needed, then an add-on for the cold weather of the $4,200. So that way that $4,200 is not built into the not to exceed amount. That's a true standalone add-on. And then not to exceed will be the updated contract amount with the change order plus the 10% contingency on that.
Councilor Depot.
So that's, if I'm adding it right, is 23% increase over the approved cost from last time?
It could be,
Does that
I'm
sound
not
right?
sure.
And do we know, were the other proposals, measurements correct? And if so, did we?
They all bidded on the same packet, which it was at minimum to be 9 by 7. So they would all be that size door.
So they were all
All
Yep.
correct?
bids received
I mean,
came in
incorrect.
Came in for that proposal, because that's how the RFP was sent out.
So presumably, this change would have to be made no matter which company we went with.
Correct.
So there would be an increase over any bid that we got, either
Correct.
way.
Deputy Mayor Garrett.
It sounds to me like the bottom line is if we don't put the proper doors in, we might as well not put any in. So
We could potentially still have the issue that we're trying to remedy
Right.
with equipment outside in elements as opposed to in a shelter or in a garage in the future or even present. Because we do have one bay of the bay in the house, the existing building, we can fit our tractor in. But if we got anything else that's 8 foot or higher, 7 to 8 feet, or 8 feet, we'd be stuck.
Like I say, there would be no point in doing it if the equipment doesn't fit in.
Correct.
So,
Councilor Depot.
I'm sorry, can you repeat the amount of the contingency for the new one?
Okay, it's a
Not to
10%.
exceed number? 134,901.
So it's the 10%, so it's one, okay.
80. Is that the number you're looking for?
That's the one.
10%, okay.
Councilor Sheffield.
And this money's coming from, to pay for the costs from,
It's coming from the capital.
okay.
We have the money.
Right, there was money that was set aside some years back, which was about half of it, and then there's other money in the capital that'll be used for the additional increase from what it was originally.
This originally started in 2008.
Just voting for the updates.
So it's only taken us 10 years to get here.
Well, there's been some reasons
Well,
behind
there,
it,
but we're gonna move it forward and we're gonna execute. And we're gonna have the right thing when we're done. Counselor Depot.
I was just gonna reiterate what you said, is that we need to do this because we're probably paying, repair costs more rapidly on items that will, in the future, be stored in this building that we won't have to repair as much, right?
Well, I'm also holding off on buying a $54,000 lawnmower until I get this. I'm not buying a lawnmower, leaving it in the weather. It's gonna save us in the long run.
Right.
But I'm not purchasing it until I got a shed to put it in. Outbuilding or whatever you decide. The south, it's a shed. Any other questions or comments? Okay, I need a motion to move this to the mayor and council meeting of 4 February.
So moved.
Second.
Any
Thank you.
any further discussion? Hearing none, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, abstention, motion carries. Thank you, Mary.
Thank you.
Hey, Carlton, this is 7:33, building and zoning forecast.
Good evening, Council.
Take a seat.
So last week, we had talked, we were trying to get you an update of where we were in consideration of the electric code's new facilities. So I said I'd bring some plans, some pictures on where we are. So this is at 10%, these drawings. This one I'm going to show you right now. You heard Dennis Kader talk earlier that we're probably closer to 35–40% of drawings. So this is a 10% rendition of the picture, which leads us to the interior fit out of what the interior would look like of the building, which we are now working with currently 30% for what we call the process. All this, up to this point, we've been having years' worth of meetings on here, and now we're truly at the process point. The process point meaning is the land permit side of this. We'll kick off tomorrow night with the ZBA. And as Dennis said, we start on the 13th with planning and zoning and also wetlands. I got to run a dual application at the same time with that. So this is a more detailed piece, and I'll leave these out for you after so you can kind of gaze and see these. Move these off to the side. So I issued you a couple of papers tonight to directly talk about where we're at within the electric boat, Pfizer's, and some other large-scale projects that are happening in the city that either you're aware of or may not be aware of that are going to hit very soon. So the first is the enabling project that you see on the top of your list. That's currently happening right now within the facilities. There are 12 separate projects happening in there, and they're probably in the neighborhood of $30 million to $40 million worth of projects out of these 12. The next one is the electric boat South Yard expansion, which is this building we just talked about. It's a 7-acre platform with a 5-acre building going on top of the platform. There are other support structures that will go with this, such as a new electrical substation. We have to build a new I'm going to call it a support building for better terms, and that will start 3 years after we start this building in here, and other items that need to move in the water to make this, to fit this in. That size project, which will start this summer, what they hope to start in July of 2019, is anywhere from $300 to $400 million in scale. Just for the 7-acre building, 7-acre platform and the 5-acre building. The other buildings that you see on there will be separate fees. Pfizer currently has about $15 million in construction going on. And in 2020, we'll be putting a new boiler system in on the east side campus, an area that we've never had a boiler before. It's always came from the west side campus. And then in 2022, we're adding a third gas turbine generator to the west side campus. In this spring, summer, we'll say, we're going to start with our west side middle school. We'll be starting to get the permits in for that. This summer, they need to take the kitchen off because it's in way of where the new building would be. And the modular buildings come out, the parking lot goes in, and then the following year, we start to build. 70R Bridge Street, we've got a 4,000 square foot startup. It just went through land use. They already have their land use permits on here. Should be starting up in the spring of 2019. I know they're very eager. Thames Street, we got to start with land use permits, and we have an additional, there's an addition going on to this building, 18 Thames Street, with an interior fit out for new businesses to go in. And Groton Heights School, we're starting to get the clearer picture of what we're going to do with that building. It's not officially out there, but at minimum, they have to put a new roof on this year, and we are going to give them let them put a new roof on because it's just ruining the building currently. As you heard from Dennis, the reason for this meeting, as you heard from Dennis and the chief, it was kind of nice that they had gone before me, is Dennis said, listen, when these drawings come in February 13th, we have only so much time to produce these back out because of state statutes. So when a building permit comes in with the drawings, such as we think they'll be here in May or June, we have 30 days by state statute to turn those drawings over and either approve them or give them a reason why, deny them in writing and the reasons why on this. Same thing happens as we talked about with wetlands and the land use, the CAM permits that we talked about last week with the ZBA. We only had 30 days to turn that over, right, to hearings tomorrow night. We got it just a couple days before Christmas. So all those things lead to the imperative moment of that the building office is going to need to increase the manpower to do these inspections, to do these projects that are going to happen, and there'll be an increase in the budget. The upside of that is that there'll be enough permit fees to cover the cost of those things in the budget so that the budget doesn't look like it's spiked up by 600% and the taxpayers are all having to wait. Where's that money coming from? So these items are needed to talk to now because we only have certain dates to hit the council or the cow with you to make these contracts happen. We don't have these contracts in front of you yet, but you can see how eager or aggressive the electric boat's going to be. A good example of that is currently our budget, my budget is for the Building and Zoning Office is based on an income of $275,000 we put in last year. We currently are at $469,000 of money we've taken in. So electric boat increased the years that they wanted to do projects ahead of time to get some of the land cleared out, some of the items moved around on there. That was unexpected for my office, and Electric Boat is working feverishly to get through that. So I was hoping if you had, at least you'd see the list of projects that are happening within the city. They're just not all Electric Boat. They're scattered throughout the city. It's decent-sized projects, too. And this is the commercial work of that. I did put in at the end there about what's going on currently with residential so that you'd know that there's two sides to that. So right now, for the last 6 months, we've taken in about $2 million worth of value of residential work, which equals to 62, on average, 62 permits a month. And so if you break it up by the 6, it's about $326,000 worth of value that's happening in the residential side of this. This is Branford Manor. Don't look at Branford Manor's money is not there. This is not. This is past Branford Manor's project that we talked about last week. That one's pretty much closed out for us. So you are really seeing just what's happening residential-wise within the city limits, and these are 1 and 2 families, because we consider the 3-family a commercial aspect of that, so we put that into a whole different category. So this is truly 1 and 2 family money you're seeing happening in 6 months in the city, that's a lot. It's at 62 permits on average a month that we're issuing out, because typically there's at least 3 inspections, if not more, that goes with those, each one of those permits that are issued. So this was just a forecast, so that you could see it, and understanding that when we when we vet these contracts out, we've got about 5 vendors out there between plan reviews. We're looking at inspection services, hiring inspection services from a contractual point. We are looking at if it'd be better to hire somebody. We're coming with a whole array of possibilities. And the driving point to this, the driving point that's making us do this, is that the end date for Electric Boat on this $300 to $400 million project is they've already told us a CO they would like a CO to be issued on February 1st, 2023. We are starting this building in 19. That's how long it's going to take to get through to build this position.
So why to bring this to you? One, it is important to me that you know the type of work that is going to be going on in the near future, or actually in the next 3 to 5 years. That's important. You need to understand the amount of manpower that it's going to take, so we're going to need to hire people. But what we're looking at doing is using contract labor, using the permit fees to pay that so that there's no negative tax impact. It is also important that we understand which of these projects will get relatively immediate impact from and which will take several years to get impact from. For example, most of the work that is going to be done inside the confines of Electric Boat is going to be in the enterprise zone, and so therefore it's a 10-year payback. So you get a 10% every year for 10 years. So if you have this building that's $400 million, they don't get full tax assessed on the $400 million 13 years from now. So one of the things that is important to me is for the council to understand the revenues and the tax implications with that, because we need to know where our revenues are coming from and not just what our expenses are. So that's that's something that is important, and one of the things that Ron and I are doing and looking at for 1 year, 3 year, 5 years down the road. So that's why I wanted to bring it. And also, if we're coming up on budget season, you're going to see a spike in Carlton's budget. You're going to say, what's going on here? So you will see an increase in expenses, but you will also see an increase in revenues to offset that. Any questions or comments from the council? Councilor Rusk.
How soon do you anticipate needing additional staffing?
Well, if the building permit for the structure, for just the foundation, what they're going to do is split this up into 2 pieces. The foundation coming to us in May or June of this year, and then the rest of it, what we'll call the structure on top of the foundation, would come in January of 2020. Okay. So we would need to have third-party review by May or June for the foundation portion of it. This is not your standard single-family house, 2,500-pound concrete.
At some point in the future, we're also going to need fire marshal support, because we have the standard fire marshal support that we have going on, and then we're going to have the extra burden due to the Electric Boat building. And so we'll be coming to you, we'll be coming to you with a plan for how we're going to meet that and how that's going to be paid for. Any other questions or comments from the council? Okay, Carlton, thank you very much. Next thing is 7:34, Economic Development Commission presentation. Sarah, if you and Cheryl could come up. I've asked Sierra Patrick, who is our Economic Development Coordinator, to come to the council, one, for introductions, and also to talk about the exciting things that she has planned in her position for economic development in the city of Groton. Thank you, sir. Hey, Sierra.
Good evening, and thank you for having me. I'm Sierra Patrick. Just to give you guys a brief background of me, born and raised in New London. Upon graduating high school, I attended Hampton University and received my bachelor's in marketing with a minor in entrepreneurship. I then went on to Georgetown University, where I got my master's in urban and regional planning. I also have experience in banking, where I focused on financial planning for businesses as well as personal clients. So I have a slew of knowledge and experience that I can bring to this position. And also in my transferring back from DC to this area, I did an internship with the C.O.W, so I got very familiar with our planning infrastructure and some of the things that we are handling regionally. So as Keith has explained, I'm not only here to do introductions for myself and for our EDC chairman, Cheryl Auerbach, but also to start to discuss some foundational elements that I think that we need to focus on moving forward on our plan for economic development. So I just made this visual for you guys to kind of summarize as much of the many things that we have going on. So just to talk, the elements that I'm looking at is enable, empower, encourage, and engage. So under enable, right now there is an economic development strategy that is going to be, that is in the process of being formalized. The Planning and Economic Department in the city is working with the town of Groton and C.O.W. Associates to actually devise that plan. This strategy seeks to discover solutions for goals such as shaping nodes of activity into places where people can connect. The nodes that we're focusing on in the city would be Thames Street, Five Corners, and Yukon Avery Point. Other goals are to enhance access to amenities and recreational resources, to grow the supply network of existing and emerging sectors, connect, communicate, and educate on economic development, and also lower hurdles for entrepreneurs and startup companies. And there's a few other goals that they're also trying to work on as well. As you guys are also well aware of and probably informed, that we do have TIF now, so you guys know that is a financial mechanism that we would use to help spur economic development in in the district. On top of that mechanism, we are also looking to analyze and research other incentive programs, ones that we currently have, to make sure that we are actually achieving our desired results, and also finding places where there could be adjustments made to make sure we get to that goal. To move on to empower, I'm excited that we have a business visitation program that I'll be hopefully starting in February, just trying to still gather and collect all the databases of the many businesses we actually do have in Groton. But the business visitation provides the city a chance to build, and in some cases rebuild, relationships with our local businesses. It also provides a convenient and personalized opportunity for us to connect them to the resources that they need, while also educating them on the economic development efforts that we have going on in the city. Our support networks, I'm currently working with services such as SCORE, the Women's Business Development Council, Ignite, and different organizations like that, to help coordinate, promote, and connect the businesses to those resources and to the overall business community that they are establishing in our region. From the business visitation program, one outcome that the EDC really hopes to highlight is discover some key issues and topics that our businesses are really trying to focus on, and then working with these support services to maybe create customized workshops that we can host here in the city for those businesses to address the concerns that they have. Moving on to encourage, coming here and understanding our dynamics of things, I think it's really important that we start to really create a brand for the city. As we move forward, it's important that we take time to discover our identity and then provide our residents and businesses with, or just overall community with something that they, a brand that they can take pride in. The brand will not only develop community pride, but it can also serve as a marketing tool to help educate prospective residents and businesses on what life will be like in the city. The EDC is working on beautification projects. We are pursuing the projects to enhance the quality of life. We are also hoping that the projects will help encourage other property owners to make some improvements of their own. We also are going to do some research on incentive programs that will help assist them in those ways where appropriate. We also have wayfinding. If you guys aren't familiar, wayfinding is just a way to guide travelers to key destinations within the municipality. The town of Groton has already constructed a master plan that has like a standard set of what the design will be like, and different things like color you can switch, but just a standard for the design. And there are discussions right now of Groton municipalities and Stoning taking on that standard, so it can be more of a universal wayfinding program to really attract visitors and let them know where they're going. Moving on to engage, we are going to, plans to really up our marketing, discovering the best use of our digital platforms to communicate with residents and businesses, as well as promote opportunities and events here in the city. As far as programming and networking, the EDC will begin planning for events for 2020 this year. And we also would like to promote the existing events while also trying to figure out ways to create social and networking engagements as well, to kind of go along with those. Another aspect which we're in discussion of is a standalone economic development website. The town has already taken that approach with their websites, and our website would serve as a microsite off of their website to kind of show the collaboration and to share in that market base. So that is still under research of whether or not that would be a feasible approach for us. And this is just overall what I'll be focusing on for 2019. In the next few months, I'll really be focusing on business visitation, brand development, beautification projects, the support workshops, and obviously the economic development strategy. Moving forward from, just so you guys can understand the background of this, I took the vision statement from the POCD of a vibrant mixed-use neighborhood with diverse businesses, amenities, and housing in a walkable village, but added to a social aspect of establishing an environment that encourages innovation and empowers people to reach their full potential, to show that economic support side to what it is we're trying to accomplish in the POCD.
Questions or comments?
That's a lot. Congratulations. No, that's great.
Because one of the things that we're doing, Sierra's doing exactly what I've asked her to do. One of the things that we've done is we've engaged our two large businesses. John Burt and I have visited Pfizer and Electric Boat. I was at a Pfizer lunch today where John Burkhart spoke, and he's a senior research individual over at Pfizer, and they have several new product lines that are coming out. They are here for the future. They are Pfizer's R&D Center of Excellence, so that's good news coming out of there. So we've engaged the two large businesses. I've asked Sierra to engage our smaller businesses and to reach out to the small businesses so that we can, one, help them grow, and so that we can get more small businesses to come in to the city of Groton as part of our economic development plan. And so this is, I'm very optimistic in where this is going to go. This will also help, we can help them with their branding. It'll also help us determine what the city of Groton's brand is going to be, because the city of Groton really hasn't decided what our brand is. Who are we? We still have an identity crisis, kind of, but we're working with it. And so it was important to me to bring both she and Cheryl to talk to you guys. Comments? Councilor
I just wanted to thank Cheryl also, because I know you put a lot of time and effort into this, and
Well, that's why I
I
just want to
appreciate
come, because I
both
know the
of
last time we were here, we were asking support for her, and now we're thrilled, and we want to make her successful, so that's our mission to help her.
Absolutely.
Thank you.
Anyone else? Councilor Sheffield?
Yes, thank you for coming, Sierra. Groton is different from New London as far as when, knowing both sides of the river. New London always had their identity. They have their pride, and that's something that Groton, in a lot of ways, hasn't, because they're more separated, neighborhoods and so forth, and of course now city and town. So I know when I first got on the council, we sort of established a blueprint, what we wanted to do here in the city, as far as, work, play type of thing, to make the city a better place. So to enhance on that, hopefully we can expand on any ideas that you can give us for Groton, but that's an interesting philosophy as far as that identity. What does the city want for that identity? And there are things that we can do, but then we don't want to offend the other side of town at the same time. So hopefully that unity can bring it all to where we can all have a joint identity. So we'll see how that comes together.
And I think we'll actually have some good progress. There seems, in talking with the town, just talking about the different areas that we have, it's actually trying to celebrate the various if we look at it as neighborhoods, but celebrate each neighborhood and then educate the other neighborhoods on what it is, opportunities and identity that you can actually experience. And so, living in DC for a while, like when you think of DC, you think of all of DC, but when you actually look back and break it up or even research it, they have pockets of neighborhoods, and each neighborhood has something that they're very prideful of, but it all meshes together really well. So I'm hoping that I have that same experience here, so we'll see how it goes.
Councilor Depot?
I was just going to say, thank you. It was a very complete picture of kind of a lot of the goals that we have, and a lot of the things that we're doing as a council are with this in mind. Obviously not as concise and complete a picture of it at all times. So I think it's a really good picture of, what we're trying to move towards. And I know that this is in the back of my mind when we're making decisions on things, how it affects the economic development, because that's what's going to push us forward. So thank you for all your hard work, because it's really important to draw attention to these goals that we have.
Anyone else?
I want to thank Jamal,
Yeah, Jamal is council liaison to the Economic Development Commission. You're right.
Right, but like everybody said, you've picked up the ball and you've ran with it, and I think our outlook looks good. So thank you.
Absolutely. Okay, thank you, ladies, for coming. Okay, let's see. Let's go. We'll go to 561 Groton Utilities Financials. So, Director Godet.
So as the council is aware, David Clark is retiring this Thursday. So these are actually David's last set of statements that he prepared for the UC. And I just want to go on record and thank David for 45 years of service to Basel Light and Power, and then with the with the acquisition, he came to Groton Utility. So I wanted to thank David for his commitment to Basra and to the city of Groton and the utility department.
So one of the things everybody may or may not be aware is we've made a decision to try to really partner the financial portion of the business and to partner with Ron. So I'm not trying to leave him in a lurch, but I also want him to be able to learn and teach me how to speak city council better and allow the communications all the way around to be as good as they can be, so that we have the financials as transparent as possible. So don't be afraid to hold back with questions one way or the other. Ron was going to drive for the moment.
So we're just going to try to keep this month kind of brief, just go through it, hit the main topics, kind of get feedback from areas that the council wants more focus on, less focus on, just so we kind of have an idea of going forward as to what you'd like to see and kind of make the presentation more council-driven with maybe more detail in some areas, less detail in other areas, and like I said, kind of create it for you. So to circle back to the previous meeting when the financials were going over, the question was asked, and I believe it was on the water department, the other income and deductions piece, and kind of what makes that up. The big driver in that is all other operating income other than true water sales. So if you go by a lot of our water towers, you'll see antennas on them. So the rents from those cell phone towers come into that other income. The big driver there is the miscellaneous income from the DWSRF grant, which is a drinking water state revolving fund grant. That's the piece that is related to the interconnects that the state has given us the grant money for. So David has been reporting those grant monies down as an other income line. So in the I think it was the November or the October statements, there's a $608,219 of other income. And what that was is that was the submission number 14 to the state, and that was their reimbursement and the grant portion of that submission coming in for that month. Year to date, that miscellaneous income or that grant money's coming in has been $3,274,836. So just kind of as a up to date where that other income from water, there's that amount coming through there. That is offset by work that is done on those interconnects. And Ron can kind of talk to that. We haven't been doing as much work on the interconnects as far as how much grant money has been coming in to offset that. And year to date for those interconnects, we've spent $151,604. So that's why you see a big miscellaneous income in the water department down below. So I think that hopefully answers the question from the last cow that we had that was open.
And if to be very specific, if you go to page 8, line 35, that was where the question stemmed from. It read plus other income and deductions net, and you stumped me on that question.
And you'll see, and then on line 46 is where that DWSRF grant is kind of reported on its own, but it is netted up with that other interest, but that's just broken out separately for reporting purposes as a tracking. So if we go to page 2, which is the Groton Utilities Electric Division, and these are for the month ended, so this is truly just for the month of December. The total revenues were $464,662,575.
I'm sorry, can you tell us the lines that you're on before you?
Line 25.
Thank you.
Just the total revenue.
Okay, thank you.
Was $4,662,575 was actually received, which was $17,380 better than budgeted. The operating earnings for the month, which is line 43, were $342,837, which is $222,800 better than budgeted for the month. Which then brings us down to line 52, which is a net income from operations. That just kind of shows you the summary of how the electric division did for the month from the operational standpoint, less all those things outside of operations, which you see it was 368,672 or 228,534. So for the month, the electric division was bringing in more revenue and spending less from the operational side than what was budgeted, so it was in the positive. So if we go to page 3, which is the year-to-date amount, which kind of gives you the picture for the first 6 months of the year. Again, we'll go to line 25, the total revenue. It's 28,274,676, or 1,047,182 greater than budget. Line 43, the operating earnings, 2,094,415, or 332,255 greater than budget. And then once you pull in all those other interest and other charges and the net income from the operations as a whole, on line 52, see it was 2,256,523, or 373,076 greater than budget. So the electric division is trending better than budget as far as the gross income and the profit is concerned.
Councilor Depot.
So it looks like we are spending less than projected on operation and maintenance, and that's one of the main drivers, right? Am I reading that right?
Correct. That is accurate. And what happens is, depending on and Ron can kind of fill in on this, depending on the time of the year, the crews can be doing bonded capital projects or non-bonded capital projects, which then takes their labor, the payroll, and it actually applies it to a capital asset and brings it up to the balance sheet, because it'll be capitalized in the wrong term. So depending on what projects are being done, if they're just doing operational maintenance and repairs of lines that have gone down in a storm or something that was not prepared for, that's where it would hit that O&M. So I believe the crews have been doing a lot of capital projects.
Been doing a lot of Tollgate Road, right?
Tollgate Road.
Tollgate, if you go down, excuse me, my apologies. If you go down Tollgate Road, there's two parts of this. There's the main line that they're running, and then there's a secondary portion of that, and that's gonna take them, what they tell me the other day, a few more weeks. They're about, I forget where they are on the percentage wise, but this is part of the infrastructure, the maintenance of the infrastructure. And that's why that is what it is. Go ahead, Councilor Depot.
So we're not expecting that to like bounce back and like the second half of the fiscal year to bounce back and not.
Unfavorably?
Correct.
It very well could, because the budget is all done in percentages over time. So what very well could, well, number one, we're in the winter.
Right.
Depends how many storms we have. So all storm work is expense and against these lines. So there's no capital for that. And this year, we haven't had a lot of storms, that many.
Councilor Depot.
Okay, so kind of dumb question maybe for the budget. So when we plan for capital projects, do you change the O&M budget
Yes.
based on, so those capital projects that we're doing, were they unexpected or?
It's all due to timing.
Okay.
So we've working real heavy capital,
Mhm.
and then very little hits expense. And then when they turn focus, maybe they'll do some maintenance on the lines or replace some cutouts or something like that.
Okay.
Then all of a sudden, the swing will go back the other way. And because we're unable to, that O&M budget's 1/12. So when the full labor force maybe comes back and hits it, all of a sudden you'll see it start to go unfavorable by the month. Hopefully, year-to-date, you're fine.
Well, another thing that you can look at this, you look at it and you say, wait a minute, what projects are we not getting done? So one of the things that I'm looking at that we're gonna start talking about is 5-year project plan. What is our 2019 project plan? And where are we on projects, right? To make sure that we're getting our projects done. Because if you come in lower, it makes your, when you look at revenues versus expenses, it looks positive, but if you're not getting your work done, then what good is it, right? So these are the kind of things that we're gonna be looking at closer as well.
Right. The whole idea is to allow the workforce to remain fully and effectively and efficiently loaded. And then let it stay that way for the long term, so you're not doing labor upshots and downshots with people.
Any other questions at this point? Okay, Ron?
That's pretty much the summary of the electric division, where it is year-to-date.
Okay, anything else on electric? All right.
And then if we go to page 7, which is the water division, we'll run through very similar to what we just did with the electric. On line 21, the total revenue for the month was $824,615, just under budget of the $832 by $7,804. The operating earnings, which is line 32, was $160,233, which is $178,957 better than budget. And then the net earnings before the DWSR grant was the 124, which is line 44, the 124, 114, or $227,875 better than budget for the month. So if we go to page 8, which will be where we are year to date at the 6-month mark, the total revenue on line 21 is $5,438,715, or $23,130 greater than budget. The operating earnings on line 32, $1,231,509, or $940,720 greater than budget. And then line 44, the net earnings before the DWSRF grant was $1,146,310, and that total greater than budget at the current mark of the year was $1,365,743.
Councilor Sheffield?
Yeah, I noticed that our operating expenses decreased by like 18% as well, so that helps as far as at the other end for the income part. We have less expenses incurred, so.
And again, there's capital projects that are being done on the water side. I'm not sure how much from the allocation standpoint with the water treatment plant. We do have project managers that are being allocated there, the Walker Hill Tower. So, and then all of the other capital projects that are.
The swing in capital isn't as great. The labor that goes toward capital is not as great in water as a general rule. A good portion of the water has to do with, there's money in here to change out filter beds and stuff that is, you know, each filter bed is, I don't know, I'm trying to remember, about $100,000, say. So if we do 1 or 2, you spend a couple of $100,000 very quickly, and there is some of that scheduled for the spring. So there is some spend that's scheduled for the spring.
And just one of David's other notes is just about the reimbursement process from the state. It continues to be timely, such that monies are received from the state and are coming in time to pay the bills without having a cash shortage. And so that's been working out really well as far as the state reimbursement.
Okay, anything else on water? Okay, sure.
And we'll go to page 12 for sewer. Again, this is the month to date. So you see total revenues were $383,930, which is line 19. Just under budget of $16,034, or 4%. You see that these are coming more closer to the budgeted amounts now in the winter months, as the AC and those deduct meters aren't as great because of the colder weather. The operating earnings on line 28, $162,721, which is $5,651 greater than budget. So in this month, actually the operations for the sewer department are greater than the budgeted amount for that month. So then if we go page 13, which is the year-to-date, which brings us to the 6-month mark. On line 19, the total revenue is $2,064,057, or $461,926, or 18.3% of the budget, which we've discussed. Now, with the deduct meters that were not accounted for was the reason for that. The operating earnings on line 28 are $808,297, or $261,822 below what was budgeted. The total net income on line 37 from operations was $627,983. The negative variance of $261,818 from budget. The positive thing to look at here is that there is still net income coming in from the sewer. It's just not as much as what was budgeted for in order to try to build up those reserves for the capital, future capital projects. So it is still in the positive. It's not like it's losing money or anything from that standpoint, but it's just not building up that reserve for those future capital projects as was budgeted for.
Questions on sewer? Just to let you know, I have Ron talking to Mark Beauchamp. He's the guy who did the cost of service study. We are, based on council's reviews and the utility commission reviews of the forecast, we're going to have a public hearing probably in March, early March, and then that way we can, the public can come out and talk about it. We can show the public where we are, what the projections are, and we'll get that information out to them. But right now, we would still keep the rates where they are. I still want to have a public hearing so that the citizens can come out so we can talk about it and they can see where we are. Anything else on sewer? Okay. Anything else on finances?
The only thing that, if there is something, like I said, that we did cover that you would like us to focus on, just let the mayor or myself know, and we can change up and make sure we get you the information that you're looking for.
Thank you.
Okay, thank you. We're gonna go to 471, which is the Groton Utilities, some resolutions that we will move.
741?
Correction, thank you, 741, my apologies. You're right, my dyslexia kicked in.
Would you like me to do all four at once? Pretty much, or-
No, because I'm gonna need a motion to move each one, right? Yes, I am, I'm gonna need, so, yes, you're gonna do them one at a time. HVAC, we'll start with HVAC.
I'm going to hit really quick two leftover issues. One was I left a question about lobbying that was left over from the last meeting. What was passed through the system was the lobbying contract at $108,000 per year, and I was asked what it was prior. The prior amount was originally $100,000, but it increased on July 1st. So the net effect of an increase on July 1st was the prior calendar year, it was $104,000, whereby because it increased on a July 1st, which the lobbying contract is a calendar year contract. That just makes sense.
Well, so you're saying that the contract, though, went from 100 to 108?
Yes.
Okay. All right.
And then there was one other leftover item related to C.O.W. And the mayor had asked me to mention this, and I keep not finding a spot to do it. So in the final budget vote at C.O.W., I had actually abstained from the vote, and the purpose for me abstaining from that vote at C.O.W. was to make sure that it was clear that the entire board knew that my son actually works at C.O.W. So I wanted to make sure that the whole board knew that, and actually, I thought it would be really appropriate to make sure all you guys actually knew that too, so that there's no rumors or things that go around. That's a fact. He works there.
So I do have our attorney reviewing this to ensure that there's no violation of the charter, no conflict of interest. And he is still working on it. He's not done. So once we get final resolution on that, I will ensure that the council is aware. But we felt that it was important to get this out into the public. I think some people know, some people don't know, but it was important to get it out there so that it's a matter of fact. It is public record. So that's that.
May I ask a question?
Councilor Rusk.
How does your son's position affect your position and the city?
It should not. The board is not involved in hiring or firing or any personnel issues at CMEC. We actually ran it through corporate counsel at CMEC before that was ever done.
And they don't find a conflict of interest?
They did not.
Okay. Thank you.
It's a separate question here.
What does, well, yes. What does your son do?
He works in the load desk. He actually helps them formulate the forecast of how much power they're buying on a day-to-day basis, near time, real time. That makes sense.
So that is energy that CMEC is buying. We're not buying independent energy from that, so we're not impacted by that. The board of directors does not have any direct or indirect influence over those purchases. That's done by CMEC as an entity.
Under guidance by the RMC, the risk management policy that's done by and approved by the risk management committee and hence the board. So there's a policy that the CMEC uses in order to do its hedging and its final procurement of energy.
Okay.
Any other questions or comments on this? Okay, thank you, Ron. Please, let's talk about the HVAC.
Trails Corner, if you've driven by and you look at Trails Corner, they're kind of like trailers that are actually switch gear. So there's indoor big circuit breakers inside those switch gears, and those trailers are air conditioned and heated using HVAC units. The heat is still running in those units, but the air conditioning on them has failed, and we decided to put this resolution through so that we could treat the procurement of 2 new air conditioning systems like it was budgeted as soon as we get the quotes in. We don't have quotes yet. It's anticipated that we're going to spend about $20,000, a little bit more. After a preliminary verbal quote, we decided to run a resolution through so that we could say that we're allotting money for it, and then once we get the 3 bids, award it so that we'd have it installed before the weather hits.
The actual resolution that will come to you if you move this forward will have the specific name of the company. So instead of saying the lowest of 3 bidders, we will actually know who that bidder is, and then you'll have a complete resolution.
The plan with this was to allot the money so that we could treat it as a budgeted purchase. At that point, the bids would be awarded because it's less than 50. We can do it the other way if you want, but that was the goal, is to only run it through council once.
Well, my notes say that we're going to move this to the council. Is that not the case?
Yes, I have the resolution right here, and it reads, management to purchase 2 HVAC systems at Trails Corner switchgear for the replacement of 2 existing systems that have failed following attempted repair. Amount not to exceed $25,500 to the lowest of 3 bidders, to be paid from funds available in the fiscal year 2019 non-bonded electric substation replacement equipment fund as a non-budgeted purchase.
Let me get back to you, Councilor Rusk.
Ours says the same, but the lowest bidder is lined out.
Right.
Yeah, and it's actually 20,500.
Yes, 20,500.
Councilor Depot?
I was just gonna ask, is there, do we not anticipate getting quotes in time for the AC to be needed?
We don't have quotes yet.
Right, but it's also the middle of winter.
All right, hold on. I will tell you, I am confused because I thought the intent of bringing this here was to discuss it so that it then gets moved to the mayor and council meeting of 4 February, whereas where a proper resolution would then be reviewed, moved, and seconded. Is that not what we're trying to do?
The attempt was to put through a resolution to allow the procurement to be treated as budgeted. Otherwise, we'd wait to bring the resolution until we found it, because we want to do the same.
Ron, I need you to help me out here.
I think the cleanest thing, just to keep it across, is just to discuss the issue that we're looking to buy these once we get the quotes in. And I think the little concern with using the lowest of 3 bidders is we necessarily may not use the lowest bidder if they're not in the best interest of the city. Or, you know, if we've, and I'm not sure the process going through. So it may be just that we talk about it here today, it gets moved, and then once all the details are worked out, then it can go right to a mayor council. Doesn't have to go back to another cow or anything.
Well, that's why he said.
About it.
Well, that's why he said it's under 50,000. So that's why the numbers are the way they are.
Well, right now it's non-budgeted, so anything over 10 would have to go through. So
Right.
that was to try to.
Exactly. Okay. Councilor Depot.
I think that we're kind of saying the same thing, but, so by the time that we are going to vote on this, will we have the bids?
Not on February 4th. We could reserve it to come through when we get the bids.
Okay.
I guess the question would be, if we talk about it today and it gets moved, will council be okay with, once all the details are here, just to go right to a mayor council meeting and not come back to another cow meeting?
Yes.
Yes.
Okay.
Just to keep it moving.
Then I will not not take a motion because I don't know what meeting it's going to go to. Councilor Rusk.
Just for clarification, where's Trails Corners?
Right across from.
Sneakers.
Yeah, right across
Thank
from
you.
Sneakers. Thank you.
Okay, any other questions or comments on this resolution? All right, we'll move to the next one, GU Stewardship Plan for Forest Management.
So, the watershed has not had a forestry plan for a number of years. So, Rick got the watershed patrol people together and put together a bid and tried to get someone to, or multiple bidders to put together a plan. There was only one qualified company who actually submitted a proposal, and it was Conwood Foresters. So they've actually been working with Conwood Foresters as the only approved company that could actually do this, to put together a program that would actually bring us into a long-term forestry management plan of the watershed. There is a chance that that plan could include logging and forestry, which means it could be an income stream to offset the costs of the program. But without coming up with a full-fledged plan, that's undefined. So there will be a resolution that we're asking to bring ahead for an authorization to allow us to sign the proposal and move forward with the development of the plan at $16,000, which would be, carry us till the end of the fiscal year with the plan.
Councilor Depot.
So so that wouldn't be the annual amount? That would be for just the rest of the fiscal year?
That's to come up with the rest of the plan, yes.
So then the next fiscal year would be double that, essentially?
I don't think it defines what the cost would be next year.
This is like a phase one, right?
It's a phase one.
Oh, okay.
Councilor Rusk.
And where's this money coming out of? Oh, from fiscal, I'm sorry, I see it.
Yeah, it's coming from budget dollars.
Okay, part of this is healthy forest management, meaning cutting out deadwood, thinning trees so that you don't have disease and fire. Another part of this is to get deadwood out of the water, because when the organic material decays, you get THMs, trihalomethanes, is what that is. And we are working very hard to keep THMs out of the water, because THMs are carcinogenic. Councilor Depot.
So, for this contract, it looks like they'll have a plan within 4 months. So will we get, at a COW, will we get a presentation if we sign this contract and they put together a plan and everything? Are we expecting within 5 or 6 months at a COW to have a presentation from them? Is that a possibility?
We definitely should, actually. It's a really good idea, because that way everybody would start to understand the value of the watershed.
Councilor Rusk.
There's been talk in the past, or requests in the past, about adding walkways through the watershed. I'm just throwing it out there.
I'd like to defer that to the Tri-Town Trail Association.
Oh. Is it on here? I'm sorry, am I missing that?
Yes.
Thank you. Thank you. I'm sorry. Hey, look. Sorry. At least I'm on the right wavelength. Apologize.
We'll talk some more about it. Anything else on the forest management?
Do you have a copy of the agreement there in your packages? Because if not, I'll make sure it hits there by the time we get to.
I don't think so.
Okay.
Okay, if you don't, okay.
All right.
It was in one of the versions we sent up, and not the other.
Do we have any thing in place now, or was there in the past that accomplished, cleaning up dead wood out of the water, or any of that stuff?
We have the gravel.
Yeah.
That runs, but that has nothing to do with the forest or the trees.
Right. Because I know sometimes you'll see trees purposely, like some of the hardwood cut out. But I don't know if that was just done by people looking for firewood, or granted permission to go on the property to cut.
On our property?
Yeah.
Oh, the only cutting of trees that's been done on our property is when it's near the power lines. We've kept the power lines clear. I don't believe we have done any other
I know that
wholesale
years
cutting
ago,
of trees.
they used to allow people with permits to cut wood, not dead wood, but hardwood out, and just leave the evergreen type trees, because it helped the erosion better than the hardwood.
Sure.
I was just wondering if that was anything that was an organized plan, or whether it was still going on, or?
At the time, that was the execution of the forestry plan.
Oh.
They did allow people to come in and cut trees down in certain
right.
areas. There's various stories with how it was done.
Right.
But that allows the trees that are there to actually grow better.
Right.
Okay. Anything else on this? Okay, I'll take a motion to move this to the mayor and council meeting of 4th February.
Second.
Okay, we have a motion and a second. Any other discussion? Hearing none, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, abstentions, motion carries. Centos,
Cintas is the uniform service that the utility has, and also, I believe, there's one person in Public Works. Is there any?
No, just the one.
Just one. So this was actually with some good work by the Steelworkers Union. They got together and they said that they were looking for a uniform upgrade. So they were talking to the driver one day, and he goes, well, geez, we have new uniforms we could bring out here. I'll ask my boss to give you a call. And there was a conversation that started. And hence we discovered that we are on a year-to-year contract right now, on a contract that was started back a ways. And currently, we could jump on to a pricing agreement that, what was it, I highlighted it, was through U.S. Communities that allows us to save $5,000 a year and upgrade the uniforms that the guys are wearing. The reason it's coming here is it's less than 50, however, it's $30,000 a year, and the commitment's for 3 years in order to allow us to upgrade to the newer uniforms. So it's a savings of about $5,000 a year for a commitment of 3 years in that we get new uniforms for the guys to wear.
Any questions? Okay, hearing none, I'll take a motion to move this to the mayor and council meeting of 4 February.
So moved.
Second.
We have a motion second. Any further discussion? Hearing none, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, abstention, motion carries. Okay, primary network switchgear.
The last item is a $110,000 switch for IT. It's for a switch that's located in the operations complex, and the current switch was purchased back in 2002. It's outdated and needs to be replaced. It doesn't have support anymore. It's going through the system with a sole source, meaning it's not being bid because we're using a reseller that actually is beating state bid prices for us and provides us with extremely good service at discount to state price. It's actually, I believe it's non-bonded capital, and it's budgeted, and it was planned for replace this year.
Okay, any questions or comments on that? All right, hearing none, I'll take a motion.
I just had just one quick question. What are we gonna do with the old switch? Can we sell that somehow, or is it just?
We would have to check with Sue on that. I know sometimes with IT stuff, it usually some stuff gets destroyed based on, from the hacking the cyber world type stuff.
Sure.
She doesn't want to know, but if it's something that can be resold, we will definitely look into it. If there is some sort of value to it, we can auction it off. But again, that'd be more of a conversation with Sue to find out from a security standpoint what that means.
Okay.
And I don't know the answer to that.
That was a good question.
Yep, thanks.
Any other question or comment? Yeah, I'll take a motion to move this to the mayor and council of 4 February.
Second.
Okay, we have a motion and a second. Any discussion? All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, abstention, motion carries. Okay, that's it. So thank you, Ron. We will go to 7:38, which is donation request. We have a resolution that says every fiscal year we have $5,000 of undesignated monies in the Community Development and Beautification Fund should be available for the purpose of making such donations. No donation will be more than $1,000. And so the first one I have is not out of this fund. This would come differently, but this is for the Thames River Heritage Park. They're asking for $10,000. Last year, they had asked for $10,000, and the council agreed to providing $10,000. They're also requesting $10,000 from the city of New London and the town of Groton. And I'm not sure where that is with those two municipalities yet. Counselor Rusk.
Where does this money come out of?
It comes out of the Community Development and Beautification Fund, Fund 204, which is the money that is received from the C.O.W. generators, for $48,000 a year. It goes into that fund, and that's the fund that in the past has been used to fund this request.
$48,000 a year?
Is the rental income from the generators. And I'm gonna apologize right now, I meant to run the balance as of today for that fund, and I did not do that.
Any questions or comments on this? Counselor Depot.
Are there restrictions on what we can use that fund money for?
The intent of that fund is for community development and beautification, or just for community type purposes.
Follow up, sorry.
Good.
And for those, it would seem for any of those expenses, we usually depend on people to apply and request that money like they're doing here.
Yes and no. What I mean by that is this is the fund that when we had summer in the city, that was something that came through this fund. Trying to think of other things that have run through here, but there are things that the city will do that, and that on our side to use the money from here. So it's not only just requests coming in, but it's things that are initiatives. For example, the EDC, before it went into the general fund, this is what funded the EDC's budget.
Any other questions on this request?
Does that money go, where does that money go? What's it paid for? Salaries or?
Well, they have a large budget. Some of it is for the operators of the boats, right? There's fuel and labor costs and maintenance of the boats and advertising. I mean, there's a whole budget that the Thames River Heritage Park has.
Well, you probably remember I said something to you last summer. The site down there where you get on and off the boat, and we're always talking about economic development and beautification, and we're promoting this water taxi, which I favor, but I went on the water taxi with some out-of-town guests, and I was embarrassed at the condition of the site down there. The grass hadn't been cut for I don't know how long. The weeds were growing all over the place.
Yep.
And I remember at the time you told me that was state property.
It is state property.
However, we're running the water taxi out of there off of state property. I think somebody should maintain it.
Well, I talked to Henry House about doing that. The big trash can down there, we take care of making sure that it's emptied because the state didn't have the funds to do it. And they didn't have the funds for I talked to him about cutting the grass when you talked to me.
Yeah.
And
but I mean, if they can't and won't take care of it, is there some
there are volunteers that we could do it. I don't know. There's been volunteers in the past that have done it. I don't think we. Let me before I answer it. Let me say I don't know the answer to that.
I mean, could we fit it into our Parks and Rec or something like that?
Let me ask that question. I honestly don't know the answer to that.
Because the property where welcome to the city of Groton coming off the bridge, I believe that's also state property.
Yeah, we do mow that.
We mow that.
Yeah.
Which I think it's good to keep it looking nice, but I also think down there by the water taxi.
I got your point. Let me talk to Mary Hill. I don't know the answer to this. Okay. I'll take this as a lookup. I'll get back to you as council. But that's a very good question.
I just think it would look good for us.
No, I agree with you. So where are we? Did we get a motion in a second? We did, right?
We did not.
We did not. Okay, so I need a motion in a second to move this to Mayor and Council meeting of the 4th February.
So moved.
Second.
Okay, all in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, abstention, motion carries. Okay, Arnold Groton Bank. Arnold Groton Bank is asking for $1,000. That will be, Arnold Groton Bank and Groton Bank Day will all be the same day, just like it was last year. And we provided those guys $1,000 last year, and they're asking for $1,000 this year.
And that comes out of the fiscal year $5,000?
Yes, this comes out of the $5,000 that I talked about in the ordinance.
Okay.
And currently, these are the first set of donations coming out of this fiscal year, or requested from this fiscal year. So we haven't spent anything of any of that 5,000 in this fiscal year.
I feel like it's like the same people that ask for money. Do they even know, or what do we do to get that out there, that we even have $5,000 for people to, I mean, if it's not request or apply, but I just feel like it's the same people, and I mean, and that's good for them, because they know it's there, you know, but, if we get, I mean, if the city's growing and, with more businesses down here and more different things, or in general for kids in the community, I think we need to get that out there, that we have this money available, even if it's $5,000. And if that, when that time comes and more businesses or more agencies try to get money, I feel like there needs to be some type of like cap or whatnot. Is there a cap? Do we have a cap?
Yeah.
What's the cap?
The cap per organization's 1,000.
Yeah. So if we give 5 different agencies $1,000, you know, that's just 5 people we're looking out for.
Well, this is their request. You do not have to give them their full request.
Oh, no, I'm going to request it. I'm just saying in the future, because we always revisit this, and I feel like it's the same people. I don't know if...
I'm going to talk to Sierra and see if, in her going around, if this is something...
Because if it's that easy to say, oh, you get $1,000, you get $1,000, I mean...
Sure.
Right, Mystic needs money. I would tell them to ask for $1,000, you know? Or, it's just, I don't know. You know what I'm saying?
I hear what you're saying.
The smart ones to keep on asking for $1,000, we gotta keep on giving it to them. Let's go.
Do we use it that much every year, do you know?
Do you remember what we used?
Last year we used 4,000. The year before, in fiscal year 18 was 4,000. Fiscal year 17 was 4,000, and fiscal year 16 was 1,500.
Yeah, and that's what I'm saying. I'm not faulting them. I'm just saying that just shows me that the same people know that the money's there and they're gonna ask for that cap. But there's other organizations that don't even have a clue.
All right, let me see if we get the word out. So with this request here on Arnold Groton Bank, what do you want to do? Do you want to go less than 1,000? You want to do the 1,000, and what do you want to do, and do you want to move it?
That's what we've been doing, $1,000, correct?
We have. They've requested 1,000. We've contributed 1,000.
Just give them their 1,000 and move it.
Okay. So I need a motion to move this to 4 February.
Second.
Okay, we have a motion and a second. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Abstention? Okay, Steps. Steps is asking for $500. This is a program that is sometimes run out of this office, out of this this room, out of council chambers. Matter of fact, I stumbled into them one afternoon because I saw a bunch of people in here and didn't understand what it was about, so stuck my head into it. Or you guys that was my introduction to them. I think it is a tremendous program. It is for young women to help encourage them and to help make them better citizens. So,
Can I just add to that?
Please.
So I think it was a year ago. My wife and we were able to go to. They had a variety show. And they'd put something in the packet, and we really had a good time. And it was I was very impressed by the show that the young women put on, and we had I think some of them were from New London, and some of them were from right here in Groton.
Yep.
Students at Westside, students at Fitch. So I think this is a really good use of funds. So I would just like to encourage us to
I agree
support
with
this.
you. What's really cool about this is that you have some older adults that are mentoring high school women that are mentoring middle school women. So it's just a trickle down mentoring, and everybody gets experience, and it is a very positive thing to see it in action. Okay, so with that, I'll take a motion.
This is their first time requesting.
This is their first time request. Will probably not be their last.
I move.
Okay, we have a motion. Do I hear a second?
Second.
Okay. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, abstentions, motion carries. All right, children, where are we? Children first, right? Do I have here, let me get to. Okay. Children first, I don't. How much did they request? Okay, looks like they've requested 1,000.
Yes.
They have lots of programs for kids. And this is not just recreational programs. I mean, there's educational programs and things like that for the kids. My apologies.
In the last 2 years, 1,000 each year was approved for Children's First, so they are one that does come annually.
Okay. Any questions or comments on them? Is there a motion for the $1,000 and to move them to mayor and council?
So move.
Second.
Okay, all in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, abstentions, motion carries. All right, Groton Scholarship Fund. All right, so I think this is the first time Groton Scholarship Fund has applied to as well, right?
Mhm.
So this is their first time. They do not have a number. So they are asking
Well, if you look on
Well-
the second page, there's
Yep.
suggested donations
absolutely.
and criteria
So
that
you're
go
right,
along
there are
with them.
You're right.
So if we, I'm sorry, I didn't even raise my hand.
Nope, that's okay, Councilor Rush.
For $300, we could specify conditions or criteria that the student should possess to receive the award. So for $300 or more, we could say we're requesting that it go to a student who currently or has previously lived in the city of Groton.
Sure.
Something along that line. I mean, just, it gives us options. I can say, having 3 children go through the Groton School District, and all 3 receiving Groton Scholarship money. This is a great program that really, it doesn't just go to the top 10 in the class where you see a lot of scholarships funnel down to the same few kids. The Groton Scholarship Fund really does a great job at addressing need and addressing skills that may not just be academic skills, or your traditional academic skills. I think it's a great program, and I would like to give at least some money towards them.
Do you have a number in mind?
I would say at least 300, so that we can specify that we feel it should go to a City of Groton, a student who currently lives in the city or has at some point. I don't know how we want to word that, but
Maybe you could say, anyone who lives in the city or has within the last year or 2 years or whatever time frame you want to.
Or, sorry.
Go ahead. Councilor Carter?
Yeah, sorry. So I'm taking it, you're saying the scholarship designation, is that what you're looking at?
Well, the scholarship stipulation, student who,
Yeah, but it also says designation too, so we could actually say it has to be a current Groton City resident.
okay,
We could say that.
Sure, right.
Right in the award from the city.
mm-hmm.
okay. You do that?
So I move, we fund Groton Scholarship Fund $300.
Second.
Okay, we have a motion and a second for
Do you want to say 5?
February
Yeah,
4th.
say 5.
I was, yeah.
5? Okay, 500 it is.
Can we also capture with the stipulation that it goes to a Groton City resident?
So do you want the scholarship designation or the scholarship stipulations?
The designation to it. Well, it's the same thing.
No, the designation is you can say it in someone's name. So you could say the Keith Hedrick Scholarship for Groton City
Yeah,
resident. That's the
speculation.
designation is
City
the
of
title
Groton
of it.
Scholarship.
Yeah, so the speculation is that has to go to the
Alright.
city.
Hold on. Are you taking notes of it?
Yeah, I'm thinking if you're gonna go over the 300, do it as, I would recommend doing it as a stipulation, and the stipulation is being the City of Groton resident.
Okay,
Because it looks like the designation is more that you're saying either selecting the individual or an organization that you want it.
okay. All right, not a problem. So $500. So the motion is to move $500 to the mayor and council meeting of 4 February. Do we have a second?
Second.
Okay.
I think it's 3.
I had said 3, we
Two.
changed it to
Somebody-
5.
Change it to 5.
Yeah, we made
Did
it
somebody
5.
change it to
So-
5?
Yes.
Can you
Okay.
move it at 5, please?
Well, we didn't accept it at 3. so
Oh, that's right.
We didn't accept it, so it's
No, I thought Ron
Hold
said
on a
something
sec,
about.
hold on a second. Clerk Patrick, where are we in your notes?
In my notes, Counselor Rust said she wanted to move to 300, then somebody said 500, you said, okay, 500. And I heard Deputy Mayor Garrish second.
Okay,
Okay.
so the original motioner modified their
Yes,
motion to 500, which is acceptable.
Yes.
We don't need to vote on that.
no, we do
Okay.
not.
And we have a second. So we have a motion,
And Deputy Mayor, that 3 was just because what I said was if you do 3 or more, that allows you to do the stipulation piece. That's where I said the 3.
Yeah,
It's so-
okay,
I get confused over that.
okay. We have a motion and a second. Any further discussion? Councilor Russ?
Are we saying it must go to only one awardee?
Oh, true.
yeah.
I mean, I don't know how they divide it up, and they tend to divide things up generously. So I don't know, I just don't want to lock in our scholarship stipulation to one awardee, to a City of Groton resident,
Or how
if
about
we
City
want,
of Groton residents?
one or more City of Groton residents. I mean, that's up for discussion, I just don't.
But then that doesn't, I mean, that doesn't give, because that'd be 300. If we give it to 2 or more, that'd be at least 600, and that wouldn't be
No,
technically.
No,
speaking.
No,
just the way that the stipulations work.
You give 3 of them $100.
if we're doing 5, correct?
Right.
So much
Do
confusion.
5 of them.
5 of them 100
Correct.
for 10 50s.
Okay,
Thank
So-
you.
Break that down.
I just want a clarification on that. I don't care how we do that, if we want to say it goes to one City of Groton resident, or if we want to say the stipulation is that it goes to,
Didn't we
that the
assume
awardees are residents of the City of Groton.
So how many?
It doesn't, they can determine that, is my,
They're pretty sure they're gonna give not to one person.
No, they really spread out money.
I have a scholarship, a $200 scholarship. I see about 300, 500.
They have lots of $100 ones.
Mm-hmm.
If you look in the program, it's
Yeah.
amazing how many are given.
Then I guess it doesn't matter then, right?
I just want to make sure we word it so that it's in the way that we want it to be.
So do I. So far, we haven't decided what
Just say
way we want
$500
it
to
to
Groton City resident, parentheses, residents.
Okay,
Agreed.
that's fine.
be. Residents, students.
Thank you.
With an S
In parentheses.
on it.
Okay. Have we voted on this yet? Okay, so we have a motion and a second. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, abstention, motion carries. TVCCA. Councilor Sheffield.
I obviously would support a donation for this. I'm just looking for.
The next page.
Oh, next page, okay.
Doesn't say.
Oh, okay, okay, so with the sponsor, what have we done in the past, Ron? Do you know?
This is the first time that
Oh,
they've.
first, oh,
There's
okay.
nothing to thank for.
This is new. We'll be right back.
Are we sure this is our first time donating to this?
As far as.
From this, I don't know if we've done it in another fashion or form, but from using this resolution and,
Oh,
Yeah, that's it,
If
yeah.
they have, it was a very long time ago.
yeah, nothing in the last couple
well,
of
it's usually a town type of project with TVCC. I mean, my mother was part of that years ago when she was a school teacher, so that was something the town of Groton pretty much was part of. I've never seen, how would they do that here specifically for the city? Is that specifically for a city resident that is in need? You know, like I said, Meals on Wheels, are we going to, or is that for the general?
I think whatever we have, information we have is right here on the paper.
I think what they're asking here is, they have, every year they have a gala fundraiser,
Right.
and you can get this program advertising, so, you know, like the city of Groton could buy a full page, half page, or a quarter page.
Yeah, because the other stuff is just for attendance to the gala.
But I know that the gala that they have every year is their big fundraiser.
Yep. So what do you guys want to do? Full page?
Purchase a full page for
I would say a full page.
Full page sounds good.
So that is $250.
250.
Okay, is that all right with the council? Okay, Councilor Depot?
I just, what is it that we're putting on the page? Just our logo or?
Our pictures. I'm not sure.
I think whoever calls.
We'll leave that up to Patrick.
The deadline is March 8th.
To whoever sponsoring, probably the city logo or something.
I just, with all the economic development going on, or do we want to target, you know, some of our Parks and Rec programs, or, you know what I mean? Do we want to spread the word about something that we're doing in the city or that's upcoming? If this is in March, maybe, you know, something for Parks and Rec, or, because that'll be,
Right.
you know,
Right.
spring's coming up,
That's a great idea.
if we're gonna put an ad.
Okay, I'll see if I can come up with something for next week.
the education.
Yeah, but that's another issue anyway. That's a whole nother.
I mean, this is for.
We can give the $250 donation. That's something that we think of. It says the art guidelines. That's something that could be done in the bathroom somewhere, so to speak. It says camera. It says art guidelines. That's for us to develop. We're just deciding to give them $250 donation.
Right.
This other stuff they were talking about could be decided at another time.
Yeah.
Well, we gotta have it by March 8th.
Yeah. Well, that's not here to talk about. We're just donating this.
Yes, but what do you guys wanna put on that?
You don't have to.
How can we decide that? That's
Until
what-
March 8th.
We just want to know if we're donating the $250.
All right, are we doing that? Okay, all right, so I need a motion in a second.
So moved.
Second.
Okay. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, abstentions? And that puts me, that's it, okay. So we're out of that, on to the next thing, which is 739, the tax deferment program. This came out last week. This is the tax deferment program for federal, for the employees that were affected by the shutdown. Now, we're currently back to work, but there's a potential that it'll go back into effect February 15th, I think it is. The town of Groton has the council voted on this. Other municipalities around us have voted on this. And Ron, how would this impact us?
This doesn't have as much of an impact on the city as it does on the town per se, because with the town, like as for real estate tax, for example, it's split into two separate payments, with the second payment being due in January. With the city tax, that is all due on July in that payment. So everything that would be delinquent if they haven't paid that portion, and it wouldn't qualify for the exemption with this program. So really how this applies to us would be more supplemental bills that go out in January. And again, I mean, with everything going on, I think it would be just in good faith to follow along. And the tax collector would be the one that's gonna review this. If the town's already approved it, then they're going through the steps on their side to verify, and if there's something that ours will go on, that they would make that determination.
Councilor Depot.
And all this is doing is just deferring potential late fees,
Yes.
which we don't
It's not
budget
abatement.
for.
It's not abatement, it's deferment.
Right, so all it's saying is there's a potential that if someone needs a little extra time, they're still paying their full taxes, they're just not having to pay the whatever couple percent,
Interest.
Correct,
Interest
the
rate.
1.5% interest, or a lien, if a lien was to put on there.
Right. Yep, trying to help.
It's no brainer.
Yeah, I'm on
Yeah.
board.
Yep.
absolutely.
Okay.
Yep.
Then I need a motion to move that to the mayor and council meeting of 4 February.
So moved.
Second.
Okay, all in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, motion carries. Okay, now to, excuse me, 740, which is the Tri-Town Trail Association.
I knew there was a reason it was on my mind.
In the last week, or let's say, let's make that 2 weeks, I've received 2 communications from Tri-Town Trail saying, hey, we really, really, really want to meet with you. We haven't met with you since 2011, and we'd really like to talk to you about trails, because we'd really like to walk on the reservoir property. So basically what I'm asking is, I'm going to talk to you guys and talk to the Utility Commission and see if you're interested in meeting with the Tri-Town Trail guys, and if you have any questions or concerns, and then see if when we can get those guys to come in and talk to us. All it is an introduction and a discussion. There's no obligation from the council. And the council, if the council is not ready to meet with this group yet, then that's fine too. But I wanted to bring it to the council, and I will bring it to the utility commission. And then I gotta figure out how to get everybody together, either at the same meeting or a different meeting, but my preference would be to get everybody at the same meeting. Deputy Mayor Garrison.
I've listened to some of their presentations. I can't remember how many times they've been here. I was strongly opposed to it every time they've spoken, and I would still be.
Okay. But would you be willing to listen to them again?
I've heard them. I've heard the
Okay, so
story.
you're not interested in hearing them, okay. Councilor Sheffield.
I agree with Deputy Mayor Garrett. I would oppose.
Okay, but you guys have heard them before, right?
Yeah.
Right? The rest of the council has never, I've heard them as well.
I heard them on TV.
The rest of the council, where are you? Councilor Russ?
I don't have a problem with listening to them, but I would like to hear both sides, because I know there was a lot of concerns about running trails through the reservoir. So I'd want to hear both sides in the same night, so
Sure.
that we get a balanced view on this.
Well, I will tell you, at the time, and these guys can add on if they want, there were, some of the concerns that we had were, who does it, who opens the trails, right? Who maintains the trails? Where's the money come from to maintain the trails? What are the trails for? Because initially it starts out, well, we only want to walk on them. And then it's like, well, okay, we want to walk on them, but it'd be nice if we could have a bike on there. Well, then it'd be nice if we could have horses on there. And then, well, it'd be nice if we could have mopeds on there, right? So things get bigger. The other challenge is what happens if somebody gets injured? How do you manage that? Liability, one of the concerns that the utility, excuse me, had at the time and that I had, and that now in the position that I'm in that I have, is how do we protect our watershed? How do we protect that resource, right? Because I'm not just talking about just any pond or lake. I'm talking about a revenue resource that is real money, constitutes real money. How do you do that? How do you keep that safe? How do you keep, because then somebody says, well, you know what, we want to go in the reservoir, we want to swim. And somebody says, well, we want to kayak, we want to canoe. Next thing you know, then we want to go fishing, and then we want to go put a boat in, and now you got a zebra mussel problem. That happened, this actually happened somewhere. Now, there are other places in the state where they have, there are other places in the state where their reservoirs are open for pedestrian traffic like this, and somehow they're able to make it work. But these are some of the questions that always come up. The Tri-Town Trail guys want, their big trail picture is from Ledyard all the way down to Bluff Point and Haley Farm, be able to connect that way so you have one huge trail. Other people will tell you that if this is done and it is managed properly, you could have a tourist economy out of this where people would come to go to your trails, and then the local economy would benefit from that. So there's lots of different things that go back and forth with this. So, not driving it one way or the other.
I'm going to stand with, I'm willing to listen to them at least.
I agree.
I don't want to, I'm sorry.
You don't want to? Oh, this could be problematic.
I just don't see the reservoirs, our drinking water, things how we have it now, don't fix what's broken, so it's almost like that.
Yep, I agree.
Go ahead, Councilor Depot.
I mean, my thought is they haven't been here in 7 years, and I think part of our job is to listen to the public, and even if we maybe don't agree with their intents, or I do think it's worth giving them a little bit of our time once in 8 years.
So you're gonna make me do this? So I mean, no.
You're in a position.
No,
you're in a position where I would have to break the tie.
It's absolutely fine. So I had taken a tour of the water treatment facility, and I had brought this up at the time to some of the employees there, and asked them, in their professional opinion, did this make sense? And I can't say I spoke to everybody, and I can't say who, but what I gathered was that this was not a wise course of action. However, that does not mean that we can't see their, a presentation or, how, just seeing how it would work out in their mind. So I'm not opposed to a presentation.
So we're at 3 and 3. Right? Is that where we're at? 3 and 3? And I will vote yes in order to have the openness of listening to the presentation for those counselors that have not had the opportunity to listen to that, to the counselors that have seen before and that are opposed. If it's a presentation, I wouldn't need a quorum, would I? If it's just a presentation, it would probably be a joint meeting with council.
You could have a private meeting. It wouldn't have to be at a council.
It's true. That's all it's saying. It's not even saying just open up a dialogue. It's not even saying to meet with us. Whoever wants to go can go.
Is there a reason we wouldn't just do it in a cow?
Well, no. I need to figure out if where the utility commission is on this. I need to figure out then, once I find out if they're yes or no, do we want to do it together? Do we want to do two separate meetings? It makes sense to me to do it once and have them present to one group, whatever the size of that group is. Councilor Depot.
I just answered my own question in my head.
Okay. Good. It's easier for me.
We can't even control dogs on the beach. We can even
Okay.
be realistic.
There's no executive session, so therefore there's no comments. I'll take a motion for adjournment.
Second.
Okay. We are adjourned.